I do want to ask, though, I got to say, because as you mentioned there, you said that, your friend was being called anti-Semitic for sharing a clip of what someone else thought. And listen, man, we don't know each other, but literally the only interaction we've ever had is you called me, I think, a devil and one of the worst people in America the other day, also for sharing a clip of somebody else.
No.
Devil,
I'm glad you brought it up. Because there's a reason why I said that. It's not that I somehow mentioned something about you just in passing. You've shared a post of one of the most disingenuous, evil individuals that I've ever seen online. Nick Fuentes shamed Charlie. Ever since 2017, he would come out, harass, accost Charlie at events. He would harass his wife. Him and the gropers would harass my wife because she's white. And this guy said Charlie is a fake Christian and he's disgusting and he should never be able to be on campus without being shouted down. And then he comes out and makes a fake apology. And I felt like you supported that. And then also my art with you. I had never met you before. I disagree with you on Israel, but I respect that you come with your opinions. But when you were on stage at SAS, and you chastised those young people and said they can never claim to be pro-life ever again because they support a genocide, I thought that was the most disgusting thing that any adult man could say to young kids who was just seeking the truth and openly listening to a debate between you and another individual. So the only reason I said that is based on those principles alone. I don't know you personally, but I thought that was disgusting. And anybody who support that Nick Fuentes guy who shamed my friend who's now dead, it bothers me to no end.
Dave?
Okay, well, look, I mean, again, I said I give him all the credit in the world for this. And what was this? This was, after Charlie Kirk was killed, him saying that he was a good man, that he's praying for his soul, and urging his supporters not to be violent in response to this. And I got to say, I thought, as I think many of us did, immediately after Charlie was killed, and after your first reaction of feeling so horrible on a personal level for his family, you realize this is a very dangerous situation. And I got to say, for Nick Fuentes, being who he is, to have him telling his audience, hey, if you respond at all with violence to this, I completely disown you. We need to be Christians about this. We need to be peaceful. We should be praying for him and his family. I give him credit for that. Whatever other beef you got with him, that's between you two. I didn't say I agree with the guy on everything he's ever said. Well, hold on. Let me just respond. I didn't endorse everything the guy's ever said. I said I give him all the credit in the world for this, and then shared the clip of this. Pretty clear what I was saying. And by the way, I didn't chastise the kids at Charlie Kirk's event. I warned them. I warned them that if you're supporting the destruction of a captive, stateless people in Gaza right now, that you will never be able to claim to be pro-life again without being rightfully viewed as the biggest hypocrite in the universe. That's an opinion that I will gladly defend. And I noticed in there, you're not actually taking on that argument. You're just telling me how disgusting I am for having it. So listen, man, I think that if there's one thing Charlie would have wanted, it probably would have been for us to have this conversation without devolving into insults. You can say it's disgusting if you want to. I think there's a pretty strong argument for my point there. I think it's kind of undeniable. There's a real conflict between being pro-life and then also supporting a policy, the price tag of which is tens of thousands of slaughtered babies, children.
Well, on that point, Officer Tatum, I will let you respond, but let me just put that directly to you, because one of the reasons that I've become increasingly critical of Netanyahu's government, and you interviewed Netanyahu a couple of weeks ago on your YouTube show, and we'll play a clip from that in a moment, but one of my, and he won't do my show, just for the record, since the war started, because I think one of the reasons he won't do me is because I would say to him, you're not achieving any of your war aims. You're not getting the hostages released. In fact, if anything, I'd say you're imperiling their lives more every day this goes on. You're not defeating Hamas. That much is clear. You're causing endless more devastation. Your cabinet right-wing members like Smodrich, Ben-Gvir and others, they're talking openly about ethnically cleansing all the Palestinians. Are you not concerned, Officer Tatum, with a fair-minded head about this, that actually it is no longer about a retaliatory self-defensive strike for what happened on October the 7th, but part of a much bigger plan, which many on the hard right in Israel have harbored for a long time to displace Palestinians from their home in Gaza and from large swathes of the West Bank. Does that not concern you?
Okay, great question. Let me address a few things. I think that Nick Fuentes is disingenuous, and I felt like Dave Smith is intelligent enough, and I'm not challenging your intelligence, but I believe that you can see through the bullcrap on so many other people, and I felt like you should have seen the bullcrap through Nick Fuentes, because he's just saying that to save face now that Charlie is dead, and all the way up to his death, he shamed him. When it comes to the pro-life situation, there's a very big difference between articulating whether a person believes that life starts at conception, not perception, versus a person disagreeing with urban warfare and the way that Israel is carrying out their attacks in Gaza. That's two different things. They should not be conflated. When it comes to my concerns for Benjamin Netanyahu and his tactics in Israel, or his tactics against Gaza, there's a few things here. I think that Benjamin Netanyahu, and because the nature of the interview wasn't really a debate, it was more so me asking him questions that my audience wanted me to ask him and him putting the answers out there, and people can debate that. But I think a lot of people that I know in Israel, including myself and others that are staunch Zionists, think that he is prolonging the war too long and is causing too much damage and irreversible reputational damage. He should have ended it sooner, and he should have went harder. In America, if we had faced such brutality, rape, people getting their heads cut off. I saw videos of people getting their heads cut off. We would have been swift. Within 48 hours, we would have caused the most damage that you've ever seen to a country in world history. And Netanyahu, for whatever reason, is capitulating, in my personal opinion, to his own personal image, and that he don't want to look bad. He don't want to be shamed. He don't want people to say that he's committing a genocide. So he's playing in the middle for too long. 2 years of this war is too much. He should have eliminated Hamas immediately, and he should not worry about the naysayers. He's darned if he do, he's darned if he don't. He is not committing a genocide in Gaza. I think that's disingenuous at best, because no one committing a genocide would be giving food or aid to a people that they're trying to kill. They would not be sending leaflets and advising people of buildings that they're going to tear down. The population has grown in Gaza from 1948 all the way up until today. 500,000 they started with. They're at 2 million at this point. When did the genocide start? There is no genocide. People can argue the tactics that Netanyahu is displaying in Gaza, but you cannot be superfluous and add these arguments that seems to, in my opinion, be anti-Semitic in many ways. It's not, these people are terrorists, and not the Gazan people, the regular everyday individual, the terrorist group that came into a country and attempted to commit a genocide against Israel. They would have committed a genocide against Israel to a large proportion if it wasn't for the IDF and if it wasn't for the Iron Dome. Let's not forget they shot 4,000 missiles into Israel. They tried to kill everybody. The IDF is going in strategically. I wish that people had not died. I wish that they could end the war so there's no suffering. I wish that Hamas wasn't stealing food. The UN confirmed that 96% of all the aid is being looted. I wish that Hamas wasn't doing those things. I wish that Hamas would take the approach of Israel, which means when the rockets go flying into Israel, the people go into bomb shelters. When rockets go flying into Gaza, the terrorists go into bomb shelters, and they make their people stay above ground to be the blunt force of what they receive in a war that they started for no reason. Hamas knew they could never beat the IDF in Israel. Why did they start the war? Why did they initiate conflict? Why did they rape people and do things like that and videotape it? Why do they still have hostages? And
you know the unpalatable answer, Officer Tatum, I'll come to Dave Smith as well, but the unpalatable answer to that, maybe they did it precisely to goad Israel into a massive overreaction, which would then make Israel and its government in particular hugely unpopular around the world, to the extent that the United Nations is convening today with the UK declaring a state of Palestine. They're going to be followed by other countries. Only really America and Israel is opposing this, but it may well be that Hamas, being a bunch of evil terrorists, thought if we do this, Israel will massively overreact. They don't care about their own people dying. That's completely obvious. And it could well play into our longer-term game plan. Who knows? But it could be that. In which case, they felt they'd fallen for a hideous sucker punch. Dave Smith, your response to, a lot to unpack there, but your response. And then also taking in this news today about countries like the UK, declaring there is a state of Palestine.